and then she became this attending. And in this particular episode, the way they signal that she's become an attending, brand new job and a brand new car. And then she steps out in this gorgeous Mercedes SUV. And I was like, whoa. For me, I was just I was like, whoa. You mean a Mercedes, a young, successful girl can drive and look good in a Mercedes? It's not just for old men. Hi guys, welcome to my channel where we talk books, writing, and making money from the arts. I also share snippets of life as a published author based in Kenya. Today, I want to talk about product placement, and specifically product placement as it pertains to music videos, TV shows, films, and even theater. Welcome to this chat. If you're a returning subby, thank you so much for always clicking on my content. And if you're new, karibu sana. So when I was growing up, when you're children and then you have aspirations for certain things, when it came to cars, I know a lot of people, especially in this part of the world, have always wanted to and aspired to have a Mercedes. But for me, that was the farthest thing from my mind. For me, the dream car was a BMW. I mean, I thought Beamers were cool, they were trendy. They were just cars for young, hip people, where it's happening. For me, I associated Mercedes cars with old men. Visualize, a guy, maybe he's in his 60s or 70s, and he's wearing corduroy trousers or some faded jeans, and then a dark jacket, with those elbow patches, made out of leather, and then a got papa, those, I think you call them Stetson hats, those, yes, and maybe some cowboy boots or something. That was the image. And in my neighborhood where we lived in Langata, it didn't help that I think a lot of the men were the ones who you'd find a man is driving the Mercedes and then his wife is driving something smaller, like, the Toyota and the Mazda and the Nissan and the Subaru, gari za watu, ordinary sort of cars. So for me, Mercedes was just up there. I never thought about it. I just knew, even if I ever got money, that's not the car for me. And for years, when I got my first laptop, I remember the screensaver was a Beamer, specifically an X5. I just loved the idea of having an SUV car. And then when I changed that laptop a couple of years later, I just upgraded the laptop and then I put the newest model of the Beamer X5. So for years, more than 10, 15 years, the Beamer was just the car for me. It went to the extent of, as a writer, and I write fiction, for those of you who are not aware, other than biographies and ghostwriting autobiographies, I have written 3 novels. Now, my first novel, The Unbroken Spirit, one of the key characters was Philip, and the car he was driving was a BMW 318i. Okay, and then my second book, which was Duel in the Savanna, which I released that in 2015. You can read that on my website. By the way, I'll insert a screenshot. You can read it completely free of charge on your phone. But if you want me to send you the PDF, then you need to subscribe to the channel. So the key character was called Tony. And initially, when he was really young and reckless and having a lot of fun, I gave him the Toyota Celica GTS convertible, which just made sense for the kind of guy he was. And then as he matured and he got a family, I upgraded him to the BMW 320i. So yes, I mean, why would you even care about all of this and what my dreams for a car was? The truth of the matter is, novels, in fact, any kind of storytelling is set in real life. Whether you're talking about screenwriting for a film, whether you're talking about songwriting, whether you're talking about a play in the theater, whether you're talking about a novel or a film or a TV series, sometimes even documentaries, your characters are based on real life. They do everyday real things. They wake up in the morning, they brush their teeth, they have their breakfast, they wear clothes, they go to the bank, they take a matatu to work, or they drive, they go shopping, and all of that everyday things that, everybody does. And it gets pretty boring after a while, when you just You can say the character went to the bank. Let me give the example of my latest novel, Anne. You can say Anna went to bank without mentioning the name, or you can say she drove this vehicle, or she was driven in this vehicle. But I mean, there's something about being specific about brands, okay, of different things, because they signal to the reader what, the sort of economic class that this character belongs to. So the minute I tell you, for instance, that, Leo, who is one of the other characters, is driving a Range Rover, an image immediately clicks in your head. This guy is well-to-do, he's a lawyer, he's clearly doing well, as opposed to if I say, okay, he's taking a matatu, again, that tells you something completely different. So this is a necessity. We need to describe our characters, and we need to describe them using everyday products that they use, that they buy, that they aspire to. So coming back to the example of the vehicles, okay, so for many years I've already explained, I loved the Beamer and I put it in 2 of my books. And then one day I started watching Grey's Anatomy, and I loved the show, as did most of us. For those of you who have never heard of Grey's Anatomy, this is a show set in the US, and it follows a group of 5 interns from the minute they come out of med school and enter the hospital all the way until it's still ongoing. It is in its 19th season, and Meredith Grey is the main character, and that is why the show is called, Grey's Anatomy. And the bit that's relevant to this story is, as I said, I followed along that series, and then somewhere in season 8, okay, by this time they had gone through, highs and lows, they had failed exams, they had fallen in a lot of love, they had done a lot of things. And then they finished the internship. And then she became this attending. And in this particular episode, the way they signal that she's become an attending, brand new job and a brand new car. And then she steps out in this gorgeous Mercedes SUV. And I was like, whoa. So I'm sure now you'll remember that episode. But for me, I was just I was like, whoa, you mean a Mercedes, a young, successful girl can drive and look good in a Mercedes? It's not just for old men. It was like, I don't know, something just shifted in my thinking. As I had said, for me, Mercedes, old men. And guess what I did next? I Googled the car. And this is where it got interesting. I just Googled Meredith Grey, Mercedes SUV, and Google finished the search for me. And what that told me is that clearly enough people had done the exact same search. I imagine myself, maybe some woman sitting in India somewhere, or Israel, or somewhere in Morocco, and I get there like, what is this car? The Google search brought up a couple of results. So I discovered from that search that the car she was driving was actually a GLK 350. And my next stop was Wikipedia. So there was a whole story about how, this car, they had even stopped making it. I was watching this show a couple of years after they shot it. Now, this is important, and it will become clear to you in a couple of minutes. And just like that, I was obsessed with that car. And before I knew what was happening, the Beamer was out, and my screensaver became the Mercedes. I went and looked for a nice, beautiful picture, and it's been my screensaver ever since. So what that tells you, up until that moment, honestly, I had never ever believed advertising has that much of an impact or influence, but that told me that given the chance, when I get money, clearly that will become my new SUV of choice. And just to take it a step further, in my 3rd novel, Silencing Anna, again, I needed to put a couple of cars in there, as well as a couple of other products. And guess what? Anna's aspirational car is a Mercedes ML 350. Okay? Now just to give a little bit of background for those of you who don't know anything about marketing. First, in the olden days, when it was Voice of Kenya, KBC, you had to just sit through adverts, because we didn't have any choices. It was just the national broadcaster, and whatever ads they put in there, you just had to watch them. Either that or switch off your television. Then the world has changed. Digital migration came along in 2015. Now we have all of these channels. Some of them are purely internet-based. We have platforms like YouTube. We have streaming giants like Amazon Prime and Netflix. And so now consumers are not just spoiled for choice. Consumers now it's very easy for consumers to avoid seeing adverts. Why is this important? Okay, it means advertisers are now they're faced with 2 challenges. The first one is, as I said, media is very fragmented. So before we had these giants that they would have, we call them eyeballs in marketing, all of these people in their millions watching a show. And you knew if you put your money into that, enough people will see it. Now, audiences are shrinking. A lot of people are moving online. Social media is just everywhere. Everywhere I look, there are things like TikTok. Now I hear there's something called Telegram, which I think is an alternative to WhatsApp. Every time you look, something new has come up. So advertisers are scratching their heads and wondering, whoa, how on earth are we going to grab and hold people's attention in this environment? Okay. So what advertisers are now trying to do is to try to build an emotional connection to their consumers. And this is why the rise of the influencer culture has become so important. Because, I mean, you all know, you start watching somebody's YouTube channel, or maybe you start watching them on Instagram, and then you like what they're putting out there. It could be makeup, it could be cooking shows, it could be cleaning videos, it could be fashion, whatever it is. But then a sort of relationship, you start to begin to trust this person. You begin to trust their suggestions, and their endorsements. So when they tell you that, I'm being very academic here because obviously there are exceptions to every rule. But in theory, when your favorite influencer says she bought this product and it was good, you're more likely to try it because you trust her or because you trust him. And that is now sort of the direction we're heading for advertising. So product placement is sort of an extension of that. It's a way of marketers advertising your products that's not in your face. That's not, it's not just about the product. It's very subtle. It's about placing products, everyday products, okay? And then creating storylines around them, or getting already a storyline and putting products, but weaving the story so harmlessly that you as the viewer, it fits. Okay, it fits and it doesn't jar you, and it's a natural extension of this character. Let me give you a couple of examples. There's a movie or a series of movies that almost everyone on earth, I believe, has watched, and that is Bond, James Bond. James Bond is one of the best examples of product placement. Sometimes they even overdo it, but they get away with it because it's Bond, it's James Bond. The best example is, everybody knows, what does James Bond drink? A martini, shaken, not stirred. What does he drive? An Aston Martin. Everybody knows that. It's become so synonymous that if James Bond were to suddenly wake up and drive a Range Rover, we'd all be like, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening? Done well, product placement can become so synonymous with a character that viewers come to expect it. And ultimately, that is what a market of a product wants. So here's a fun fact. Die Another Day, which was released in 2002, set a new record for product placement. I have my computer here because I had done quite a bit of research on this topic. I want to make sure I give you the right information. So 12 companies paid $70 million. I'll repeat that, dollars, to have their products in the movie. The products included vodka, watches, and cars in the movie. A lot of critics, though, thought, they'd gone overboard and they just overdone, the marketing and the products, and they nicknamed the movie License to Shield. But for those of us who love James Bond movies, it did not detract from the enjoyment. You remember the Da Vinci Code? There was this particular scene when the main character, Robert Langdon, gets on a jet. Initially, they want to fly to Switzerland, but then midstream, they get some new information and they end up going to London. And then, of course, the police on the other side are tipped off. And then we have this scene, I still remember that scene, where we have this fleet of BMW police cars, with sirens, and flashing lights, just driving to the runway. I have never forgotten that scene. It was just amazing, amazing filming at its best. It's only later when I jumped up in the middle of the net, I was like, wait a minute, that was product placement. But it had been done so well, woven so seamlessly into the story, it felt that those cars belonged there. But product placement is not just in foreign movies. I actually have seen a couple of local productions do this very well. So one of the best examples of a local product placement in at this particular one was actually theater. Now, everyone who knows me knows I love theater and I watch a lot of theater. And in a couple of years ago, there was this heartstrings ensemble, which was led by Victor Bear and the team, and they would put on fantastic shows. And that was before the days of no mobile phones and WhatsApp. So a lot of the advertising, how we'd know about them was we would see, posters stuck on buildings or street lights and that sort of thing. And I actually went to watch one of their performances. It was called Bridegroom for Sale. But what I remember, I was thoroughly enjoying that show. But I noticed in one scene, there was a character who was reading a newspaper. And that newspaper, it was called the Nairobi Star at that time. They since changed the name, now it's called the Star. And then Heartstrings Ensemble are known for being very, very good, comedy shows, okay? So there were these one-line zingers where, they would use the name, Nairobi Star. And we would laugh and laugh. And again, afterwards, like a couple of days after that, I was like, wait a minute. That was product placement. And I was so impressed by how well they did it in theater, no less. The next thing I did, I took myself to the streets and I bought the newspaper. And I read the newspaper. I'm a person who grew up reading Nation. I have worked for the Nation. That's all I ever read, occasionally the Standard. But I bought that newspaper because it was mentioned in a play. That's how powerful product placement and advertising is. Did I continue reading the paper? No. I occasionally check them online. But you see, there are two sides to this equation. The first one is to get the consumer's attention. The second part of it is to make sure your product is so good that it is meeting a need so that they keep coming back to you. But the point is they did get my attention and I've now forgotten that. So now I believe I have explained to you and I have made it clear why product placement is work and why it's good for advertisers, okay? Now I want to talk to the artists and tell them why they should be seeking more of these partnerships, because these are paid partnerships where a brand approaches you as a producer of a TV show or a film and they request to have their product, okay, written into the storyline, and they give you some money for it. Now, the reason why this is important for artists is because, number one, piracy. Unfortunately, piracy is a very, very serious challenge in this part of the world, and people work very hard. They finance productions not knowing whether they're actually going to reap any benefits at the end of it. And if a pirate gets hold of your TV or film, you will end up with the whole world has watched your TV show, your film, and you don't get any money for it. Now, why product placement is important is that it puts money into the hands of artists up front. And that is important. It helps them pay for those productions. Actors have to be paid. Props have to be secured. Stages have to be decorated. You have a whole crew of people that actually put productions together. I don't need to go into the details. You all know it costs money to produce some of these shows. So this is actually a beautiful partnership, and I think we should be exploring more of these opportunities. I call product placement the gift that keeps on giving for the very simple reason. Coming back to the Meredith Grey in Grey's Anatomy, I watched that Mercedes maybe 5-6 years after that show was actually put out. Okay, by then, people in America had probably forgotten about it, At the end of the day, it still had influence on me all of those years later. So I'm trying to imagine the millions and millions of people who have watched and continue to watch Grey's Anatomy. And that exponentially increases the eyeballs. In marketing, we call it eyeballs, the people you can reach with your message, because films don't really have a shelf life. There's something called syndication, which is where after, like take Friends. Friends was a show we enjoyed in our childhood, and then it ended, and it was put on a shelf somewhere and it disappeared. But now it has gotten a new shelf life by, for instance, it's now on a streaming giant, Netflix, and it has gotten a whole new generation of people who are appreciating that comedy show and earning even more money for the cast and the producers of that show. That is what product placement can do, because 15, 20 years, as long as people are discovering your production and they're liking it, it means for the advertiser, it's exponential. The benefits, are exponential. A note of caution though, and readers are not stupid, neither are viewers. Even as the temptation might be to get money because a brand has approached you and they're throwing money at you, and you're tempted to now change your story to make it more about the brand than your character. But please don't do that. because readers will notice, viewers will notice. One of the best examples, I think, is Alfred Mutua's Cobra Squad, which is a fantastic show. But one of the scenes I still remember, because it was jarring for me, is the camera pans, a man walks into a room, and then, for no reason at all, fixates on the television. I can't remember what brand it was, for a bit too long, and on a blank screen, in essence. Afterwards, I got it. I mean, they had a contract and they were supposed to put this TV in the show, but hello, there could have been a better way of doing this. Just one way. Why not have the man come in? He's had a long day at work. He kicks off his shoes, goes, grabs a beer from the fridge, sits down, takes the remote, points it at the TV, and puts on his favorite game. We get to see the television, and it makes sense for the viewer. That's the right way to do product placement. You just do heavy. The other thing I would say is brands also need to make sense. Situating an 85-inch screen in a shack in the middle of a slum does not make a lot of sense. Neither would a teenager driving a Range Rover, unless that is his father's car or, his sponsor's car, in which case it should be clear from the story that that is what is happening. Okay, so to conclude on the issue of piracy and why product placement is so important. Shonda Rhimes, who is the creator of Grey's Anatomy, I'm sure she worries about this a lot, and it's a constant headache for her trying to pull down, these piracy sites. But for the folks sitting at Mercedes, I don't think they're losing any sleep about this, because for them it's simply more eyeballs. Whether a guy is watching it on ABC, or whether you're watching it on a streaming platform and you've paid for it, or whether someone is sitting in a slum in Kibera and paying 10 bob, 5 shillings to watch it in a video shack somewhere. At the end of the day, for them, it's more people discovering their product, and that is what every marketer wants. And then the next step is hopefully the conversion, where they convert you to buy this product. In a nutshell, product placement is the gift that keeps on giving. And I wish more producers, artists, and brands can do these collaborations some more. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, remember, whatever you do, whatever life throws at you, you keep on dancing. Bye.